estimate here. Like, I'm pretty sure the number's not exactly accurate. But just for the sake of conversation, let's say that had a shark eaten me when I woke up this morning, it would have burned 200,000 calories for eating meat. This is 200,000 calories of sexy Argentinian. So, like, you can get like 1,000 calories of burrito or whatever. That's how many calories you gotta eat in the burrito. My body, when I woke up, was 200,000. And that's probably kind of close-ish. I don't think it's way off. But the number's not exactly important. Then, throughout the course of the day, let's say for the sake of conversation that I ate a meager 2,000 calories, which is a total joke, because if I were to only eat 2,000 calories, I would shrivel up and die. I eat like an absurd number of calories. There's something wrong with me. It's weird. Like, everybody who knows me, like my whole family and all my homies, it's kind of a joke that's gotten kind of old. Like, I eat a lot of food. I eat 4,000 calories, like bare minimum, if I've got nothing going on all day. In the summers, when I get like full-on animal style, I eat like 7,000 calories a day. That pretty much is what like a bear eats when they're getting ready for hibernation. Like, I eat a lot. I eat a lot. No, my mom thinks that there's something wrong with me, that I have like a compulsive eating disorder. My friends, the Carmians, do y'all know Doug Carmian, the English teacher?
Yeah.
A, he is the most adorable human being. I love that guy. B, I've known their family for a long, long time. Our kids are the same age and they're good friends. And we travel a lot with the Carmians. They might go to Mexico with me this Thanksgiving break. I've been to visit their like family home out in Tennessee and stuff. I know they're good people. And every time I go over, they eat these perfectly sensible serving sizes. They're like really thoughtful about like their food volume. And my wife and I, we just like chuckle. They'll be like, "Here, Jose, here's your soup." And I'm like, "What the hell is this?" Like, I can't eat that. Like, this is like little bowls like this. It's like the oldest joke where they're like, "What, you're gonna eat double that?" I'm like, "No, I'm gonna eat like 6 times. I don't wanna go home and have dinner." Like, it's absurd how little they feed me. Because it's absurd how much I eat. There's something wrong. I think I have a tapeworm. But just for the sake of making nice round numbers, let's say that I ate 2,000 calories today, which I think is what you're supposed to eat, right? 2,000 calories supposed to be good enough if I was normal. Hey, Chase, back to your corner. Even in your corner, you're talking to Chase, Sophia. Disappointment face right here. So, I wake up, 200,000 calories worth of sex appeal. I add 2,000 calories of burritos and banana bread and blueberry muffin and beer. Those are all B words. That's literally what I've had today, except for the beer. And then I go to sleep and I wake up tomorrow morning. How many calories does the shark get by eating me tomorrow morning?
200,000.
200,000, you say? But I ate 2,000 calories today. 202,000? I what? I went to the bathroom?
Did you?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I poop like 6 times a day.
Oh, you lucky bastard.
Probably why you eat so much.
I know. I really don't know what's wrong with me. I'm not normal. Yeah?
800,000.
So you think I'm keeping 90% of my calories?
I did the math wrong. Keeping 10% of my calories.
That's under 1,000 calories.
200,000, 200 calories?
faster body
did you
burn
eat?
calories.
Did you eat 2,000
Like sleeping.
calories yesterday as well?
Yep.
So then you'd have 200,000 in the morning to look at.
How do you know I wasn't 198,000? What?
How fast does your body burn calories but not moving?
Pretty fast. I run hot. I can usually like bang out high output activities. I can like move a fridge or whatever. Like I have a pretty active metabolism. I can like wake up and run in like 10 seconds.
Like how fast it is. Did you know how fast?
Have you ever timed it with corn?
Yeah, timed it with corn? No, not yet. I can give you another insight about my disgusting body. I've pretty much weighed the exact same almost every single day for about 4 years. You know, like you guys weighed something totally different 4 years ago because you're still growing, but I stopped growing a long ass time ago. I started like growing this way a little bit when I stopped riding my bike, but that's about it. Then for like the 6 years before, I weighed the exact same every year. Yeah.
So attendance office, and then who's this for?
Genevieve Quinn, room 103. Dodson Meadow downstairs next to the elevator.
101.
Sure it's 101? Is it
Yeah, it's
com?
101.
Fine, 101. Yeah, so I'll give you a hint about Jose. I've weighed basically the exact same for 4 years. Summers I drop like 10, 15 pounds, and then I come to Santa Barbara and like 3 days later I'm back to my normal weight. It's pretty weird. So all those calories, they don't seem to be building any more sex appeal. What do I do with all that energy?
Burn it.
What about the stuff?
Put it out.
I eat like a big old shoebox full of food every day. Like if you get like big shoes, like Uggs, like a box of like cowboy boots or something, like a big, like that's my food intake per day. Like, I get tired of eating. Like I eat a lot. Like today I ate like 3 slices of banana bread and a blueberry muffin and an apple and a burrito. And I'm just getting started. I'm hungry right now. As soon as I get home, I'm going to eat a bunch of food. I'm going to barbecue some fish. Then I'll probably have like 3 bowls of cereal before bed because I'm a disgusting human being. Yeah, my teeth are all worn out. Like, I poo a lot.
Butter. A lot of butter.
As a matter of fact, I do consume a pretty significant amount of, because fat equals flavor. In case you didn't know, a chef's secret.
Lobster and crab.
Never trust a skinny chef. Where does all that stuff go? Where does all the stuff go? I eat like a big old shoebox a day. Where does all that stuff go?
Your stomach?
Your body. Everywhere.
Yeah, you know, I have been adding a little bit of material. But truth is, it's not a shoebox a day, bro. Only thing I seem to be adding reliably is hair. In uncomfortable places. I found hair on my earlobe the other day. What the hell is happening to me? Where does it go?
Toilet?
Everywhere.
Yeah, it takes some big poops, but it's not a shoebox a day. That would be some significant pooping. I don't think it's quite that much.
Sweat into that.
Yeah, I drop a little bit of water. I pee and sweat and spit and cry.
Oh, buggers.
Boogers might add up to a little bit, yeah. I built a Gumby on my dashboard when I was in college and I would commute a lot and I always pick my nose when I'm in my car. If you ever see me driving my car, I'll bet you I'm picking my nose. And I was driving, I just picked my nose absentmindedly and be like, ugh. And so I started building a Gumby, and I had like a little, and then he disappeared one day. Probably stuck to my jacket or something. I walked around. That doesn't add up to a shoebox though. Like a poop. Like, sorry, my daily poops plus my hair growth plus my Gumby layer of the day plus this is so fun. Plus like my lard gain is not a shoebox.
Teeth enamel.
Yeah, a little bit of enamel. Yeah.
Isn't it just uses energy?
But that's the funny thing. So the chemical bonds are broken to energy. That's the calories we've already tracked. But we're not like transforming matter into energy. You know, like this is not some like relativism formula. Nobody knows?
So sugar?
I got a question for you. When you put gasoline into your car,
Alright, you
You
think out,
use it.
where does it go?
it becomes
Tank.
fumes. So you're breathing out carbon.
So you beat that the
No, you breathe out the stuff. Here's a crazy thought. I forget the exact number. You can Google this, but the number's interesting. Or the concept is interesting. You can Google the number. A gallon of gasoline, I believe, weighs 7 pounds. That makes CO2 when you burn it to release all the carbon bonds. You know, so your car runs on is broken carbon bonds. The CO2 that comes out of your tailpipe weighs something like 22 or 26 pounds. 28 pounds. It's a lot of pounds. So what now? It's a gas, yeah. Yeah. So you like fill a balloon and you put the balloon on a scale. It's a big ass balloon that weighs 26 pounds, 28 pounds or whatever.
Because you're then taking 2 oxygen, you're taking a carbon molecule.
And you're sticking 2 oxygens to it.
to it.
And oxygen is pretty heavy, so you're more than, like 3 to 1 weight gain for each of the carbon atoms. So yeah, most of that food that you ate, you're breathing it out. From the sun to make those sugars again. Like that stuff comes from somewhere and it goes somewhere. I always drag out this intro. I'm not I always drag my ass with the poop. I always drag out this intro.
What?
He baited me. I wasn't going to say that. No. I always drag out this intro just to get us thinking a little bit about the difference between the material and the energy. And to get us thinking about the efficiency of our metabolisms, what goes in, what goes out, where it goes. This is all stuff that you knew. Like, I'm not educating you very much, but I am kind of reminding you of some basic functionality that we're going to need later. Like, maybe about now. First, I showed you producers and consumers in the last unit, right? Primary, secondary, tertiary consumers. You got this? Well, I'd like to introduce some terminology, please. A producer is an organism that uses energy from the sun to stick together carbons and hydrogens and oxygens into sugars. It produces the compounds that store the energy. And it might actually make like 1,000 calories worth of sugar in a day or something. That's called primary productivity. It's the amount of energy stored by a producer. You can measure that in calories, or you can measure that in carbon atoms or in carbon bonds.
Primary productivity.
Yeah, primary productivity. You can measure that in calories, I guess in kilocalories. You can measure that in pounds of biomass. You can measure that in like inches of kelp. Carbon atoms, or in carbon bonds. A lot of ways. Oh. This is different from secondary productivity. That's the energy stored by a consumer, like you and me. You? Is this all for you?
Yeah.
Thank you. Somebody asked me about these earlier, but I want to do them now. Primary productivity is how much the plants are making. Secondary productivity is how much a consumer is storing. And there's this interesting energy flow within ecosystems, the study of which is called ecosystem energy flow or ecosystem energy dynamics. Some people say ecosystem thermodynamics. Yeah, that's it. Here you go. This. There's some wacky, interesting patterns there. I want to talk about these for most of the period. First, I'd like to answer a question that I've already answered. I think I asked you this before. Why the heck would a plant bother to make that sugar in the first place? What's in it for them? Why do plants?
It eats it to survive. It uses it as cellular aspiration to produce energy to grow.
To produce energy to grow when? It already has sunlight.
When it's nighttime.
Or cold, or doesn't have any leaves. Yeah, that's right. So get this. If productivity for a plant equals 1,000 calories, does that mean it has grown by 1,000 calories?
No. It means it's stored 1,000 calories a day.
That would be growth. Like if a plant makes 1,000 calories today, will it be 1,000 calories bigger tomorrow?
No.
Why not?
Because it
He uses some of it.
So there's different types of productivity. There's like the total amount that a plant is fixing into sugars, but then there's the amount it actually puts in the bank after using some. It's like the warm-up, and it's also study goal number 3, please look up. Study goal number 3, net productivity is gross productivity minus cellular respiration. In other words, growth is the total minus the amount they're actually going to use up of that sugar. A plant can be very productive but not grow very much. It's just getting ready for a really cold day or a really cold winter or whatever. In other words, I get like a pretty fat paycheck. I feel like a millionaire for a minute. Look at my wife's paycheck plus my paycheck. I'm like, oh my God, we got like $10,000 this month. And then I look at all my bills and I'm like, oh God, I got like $11,000 in bills. So my savings is lose 1,000. Like this. total productivity of a plant might be like 1,000 calories, but if they're using up 9,000 of those at night or whatever, then their net growth, their net productivity, is only the remainder, maybe 100. What's cool is there's a lot of plants that will grow during the summer and then use up all that storage in the winter, like bulbs, garlic and stuff. But plants do grow. They usually store some. If the conditions are right, plants grow pretty fast. You can tell because most of you have had a plant or seen a plant or know of plants. Some of you might remember I told you you can watch kelp grow in some systems as much as 2 feet per day. That's like an inch per hour. You can literally see it growing against a ruler. You can measure the carbon, like if you put a bunch of plants inside of like a sealed aquarium and use like a CO2 sniffer, you can tell how much carbon they are absorbing, like how much they're growing by taking carbon atoms out of the air. And if you add up all that measurable growth of plants, you can actually figure out how productive land is. Like if we grew grass in this classroom, like we just blew out the ceiling and we watered the dirt and we had plenty of soil nutrients, and we grew grass, let's make up a number. We could grow like 1 million calories of grass per year. What would happen to a cow if I let the cow come in here and eat all that grass? How many calories would the cow take in if it ate all the grass? All million, right? Does that mean that the cow will be worth 1 million more tomorrow after it's eaten all that grass?
No.
It might grow a little bit. If it's a little baby cow, it'll probably grow a lot. You understand what I mean about how it's different if it's a baby cow? Like how many of you have gained weight in the last 4-year period? I literally 4 years ago, I think I was almost the last time I weighed myself, I was the same as the time 4 years ago on this day. So I go up and down a few pounds here and there, but I have not. You have, because you're still growing, I'm not. I'm old. If you take like the total average, please look up, of ecosystem efficiency. So energy efficiency is a ratio, right? Like how many miles per gallon, right? Efficiency, you're okay with that? If you take ecosystem efficiency, please look up. The average across any ecosystem, and this is a really loose average. So some insects are like 40%, some insects are like 12%, some animals are like 18%, some animals are like 2 or 3%. But if we're going to take a global average, look at this. It's really sloppy. Like it's roughly more or less 10%. Roughly more or less. So an average cow eating an average 1 million calories of grass will probably grow by 10% that calorie number. The other 90%, it's going to use doing cow stuff. It takes energy to be a cow. They gotta moo a lot and like play with other cows and chew a lot. And they actually do run. Cows are pretty adorable when they run. If you've never seen a running cow. They have to chew a lot. Did I mention that? God, they just chew all day. I've never seen a cow not chewing. So watch this. If your ecosystem can support 1 million calories of grass, it can probably support about 100,000 calories of cow off the growth in that grass. And if you had like a wolf in that system eating cows, it could probably get about 10,000 calories a year. In other words, you probably could not support a wolf in that system. That's not enough calories for the wolf to survive. Can everybody see why we call this an energy pyramid? The trophic pyramid? Is this easy?
Yeah.
You can skip ahead to number 8 really quick. Let's assume, for the sake of conversation, that I want to grow food on my classroom floor. So I'm going to mow down the grass, and I'm going to intensify my production, and I want to make 1 million calories of corn here. 1 million calories of corn is quite a bit. That could keep like me going like more than a year, right? 3, 10. Yeah. I think I could go for more than a. Yeah, I could go for more than a year on that.
You get sick of it though.
I get sick of it, but you know, corn's corn, calories. Another way to think about this is, I could use that 1 million calories of corn to feed a whole bunch of you. But I don't like corn. Corn's obnoxious to eat. Y'all know what I really like? I like steak. The beautiful thing about corn is you can feed it to cows. You guys want to know a fascinating thing I just learned about steak?
Yes.
You take like half of a pineapple and you put it in a blender, and then you take all that blended pineapple. You all know what I'm going to do with it? What? And you rub it all over the steak, and you put it in a Ziploc bag, and you squeeze all the air out, and leave it in the fridge for an hour, and then you rinse off all the pineapple. It doesn't taste like pineapple, but the enzymes in the pineapple break down the proteins in the steak, so you can like cut it with the side of your fork. And when steak is super tender, it tastes sweeter because like it just like goes into food faster, and so it's glorious. Like the fat literally falls off. Like you can cut it with a fork and then just shake it, and all the fat falls off, and you just eat it. It's
Do
heaven.
you have to cook it?
Yeah. You should probably soak it in.
I would imagine so, but like for fish, you can soak it in
Yeah,
rice.
yes. All right. So, what if I want to take my 1 million calories of corn? And I want to make it into steak. Is that a good plan? I like steak.
You get 100,000 calories of steak.
I get what now?
100,000 calories of steak.
Dang it. 100,000 calories. That's like a tenth of what I could have gotten if I ate all the corn. But I like steak better, so I'm going to go with that plan. Even if I ate 2,000 calories a day, that's only like 50 days worth. I was going to last like a year and a half on the corn, but I can get a lot less meals out of that extra beef. See, here's another way to think about this, and this is one that I find really striking. I don't want anybody to feel bad, but I'd like you to visualize something. Watch this. Please look up. Let's imagine that I wasn't going to share with Sophia because, you know, Sophia. But there are 10 other students here. I could give all of you plates of delicious corn food, like tamales or something. Or I could take all those calories that 10 of you were about to eat translate those through the magic of cow into steak and get enough steak for just me. In other words, our carnivorous food means 9 other people couldn't eat calories that were required for the cow to be a cow to make my carnivore food. I like the cow calories, that's delicious and heavenly. But that means that the calories spent by the cow to make my steak would have fed 9 other humans. But I get to ignore all of you when I eat my steak. Did you wish it would rain all the time?
Yeah.
I love rain so much.
Miller,
I come from a part of the world that used to have like monsoonal weather, so we would get these extended rains, and it would just rain for days and days and days. You go to sleep and it'd be raining, and you wake up and it rains all night, and then it rains all that next day, and then you go to sleep and it rains that night, and it rains the next day. For like days and days and days. I believe it rained for 3 weeks once when I was young.
That's all the water all.
All right, so please look up. One interesting thought is if we have limited agricultural production, we can make a whole bunch of vegetarian food or a whole little of carnivore food. And actually, cows are especially bad. Remember I told you that 10 is like a big global average? Cows are closer to like 4%. So if we're going to be specific, there would have been enough corn for 25 of you or my steak. Because cows are really inefficient. Hey, can I give you a final thought about this and then I'll switch gears? I've got chickens down in the garden that I've been feeding for 4 years. And they're the same size as they were at 6 months old. I keep giving them food, and they're not making me any more chicken. Yeah, they're like going to chicken menopause or whatever. Like they're really slowing down. In other words, they're pretty efficient at turning food into chicken for 6 months. They go from hatchling to slaughter size, and then they just stay that size forever. You keep feeding them and they stop growing. So what's the sweet spot to kill a chicken?
6 months.
So what's the sweet spot to kill a human if you're going to eat them? Yeah, I can't imagine Cole's going to get much bigger. I think it's about time to slaughter Cole, for example. About half of you are pretty much done. More or less, you might bulk up a little bit or change shape a little bit, but most of you on average are pretty much done. My puppy dog Charlie, he's 7.5 months old, he weighs 75 pounds. But like a month ago, he was only 70, so I think he's slowing down. So if I was going to eat that dog. So you know something crazy? All the cow that you eat at the store, that's not some like mama and papa cow, that's some like teenager cow. And like all those chickens that you buy at the supermarket, they're like that sweet spot. I don't think it's 6 months, I think it's less than that. And we know all these numbers where you get the maximum efficiency, the most protein yield for what you fed them before their growth starts to slow down, and then you're just feeding for no extra food. Right around teenage. All right. Anything else on 1, 2, 3, or 4? This would be the time where I'm going to move on. 1, 2, 3, or 4? No? Sorry.
So can I go grab something from the classroom?
All right, then. Let's go to number 5 then. And I got to tell you, this is a lot of little details and a couple of big details, and I don't like one of the words that your book had. And there's a persistent misunderstanding right over here. There's a key distinction right there and a vocab thing that I didn't like your book said. So I got to warn you that this is different from what your book said and kind of heads up in terms of like the risk to you of getting this wrong. So let's start. Yeah, here. Ecosystems break all the time. Anybody here affected by the Thomas fires / the Thomas slides, the Cedo slides? I don't really want to drag you through all the details, but like significant, minor, medium, what? Medium, okay. Now, there's all sorts of disruptions. Believe it or not, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but fires, even if they are disruptive to you personally, aside from your personal damage, ecologically speaking, fires are usually minor in terms of ecological disruption.
Number 5.
Yeah. Some stuff, ecologically speaking, is major. Please look up. What makes it a major disruption is if you've lost soil. Like when a glacier slides down and it takes away all the dirt, or when a volcano goes off and burns out all the organic material. Technically, a superheated fire can burn soil away. That's what makes it major, is whether the soil remains or not. Please look up. We'll describe later that a minor disruption is when the soil is left behind, but a major one is major if you've lost soil.
So the fire itself could be considered minor, but mudslides were major.
Depends on the place where the mudslide happened. In a lot of places, dirt just moved over other dirt. But if you lost dirt and exposed rock, the slide could be major. That's right.
Like where it went into the ocean.
It's more of a question of was there no soil left behind. So if you had like a field of vegetation that burned down, we call that minor so far. If all that soil floods away and exposes bedrock, major now, because you've lost the soil in that spot where the bedrock is.
So it's not like you lost topsoil, but you lost all the soil under there. Is considered lost.
Technically, soil is soil if it has organic and inorganic stuff. So sand is just sand, but soil is sand plus organic compounds, decomposing things. Has anybody, could anybody correct me on something? The big island of Hawaii is called Kona?
The big island
Yeah.
of Hawaii is just Hawaii. Usually.
Yeah, people call it Hawaii or Kona, right?
My dog named it. So, fun fact.
What?
Isn't it like Kona's the city? Like you
Thanks,
go to
Jay.
either side of the island and just Kona and look over like there's cities.
You're wrong.
Somebody whip out a phone. Big island of Hawaii is called.
You're right.
Hey Siri, what's the big island of Hawaii?
Hawaii is the largest island located in the U.S. state of Hawaii. It is the largest and the southeastern coast of the Hawaiian Islands, a chain of volcanic islands in the North Pacific Ocean.
It's called the Big Island.
Yeah, big island.
No, it's
Okay, fine. And there's a big old volcano in the north part of the island. Anybody know what that one's called? I think it's Mauna Loa. Whatever. I digress. I went to the big island of Hawaii, was on the airport side, and we wanted to drive north over the North Road to the west side of the island to go visit some homies who live, I believe, in Hilo, which is where the University of Hawaii is, I think. Is that possible? And we couldn't drive around because the volcano was erupting. And we actually got like almost all the way around the volcano, and they were like, nope, you gotta turn around. The volcano's going off. And as we drove past the volcano, you could see like pie wedges going up to the top, and some of them were all like trees and vegetation and lush, and some of them were like just scraggly dirt with like a few weeds in it, and some of them were just like fresh black lava rock. Here's the difference, watch. They're in different stages of succession. Primary succession is not what your book said exactly. I don't think that really helps you understand what it means. Like, they're not wrong, it's just not helpful. The best way to think of primary succession is building soil. Here, you don't have to copy you don't have to copy right now. I'll go back there. It'll make more sense in a second. You might not want my words. You might want to say it differently. But how many of you have seen lava rock? Describe it.
It's like super dark and it gets like glossy and you can like crack it super easily.
Why you can crack it? Because it's very porous. How many of you have seen the little tiny fizzy bubbles in it?
Yeah.
Lava cools off quickly, it like strings or traps gas or something like that. Okay. On the edges of the lava rock, soil will spill in from the sides. Wind blows, a tree falls and decomposes. A mouse walks onto the rock and takes a poop and goes back to the dirt. You can imagine where the edges of the lava rock is basically spillover from the dirt nearby, right? But if you've got lava rock for like 20 miles, how will you make dirt in the middle of that?
Microbes from rain.
How many of you realize that every raindrop has a little tiny bit of organic material in it? They're called condensation nuclei. And a beautiful thing about rain is that it's only water vapor because of its energy level, but it can't donate its energy to nothing. So water vapor needs to find a little piece of something to give its heat to so that the vapor can cool down into a liquid. So every raindrop has a little tiny bit of something in it. It might be a salt crystal, but it could be all sorts of living things. Like a little fleck of dust, a little piece of ash. It could be a single cell bacteria. It could be an algae or a spore, mushroom spore, bacterial spore, algae spore. Hey, remember when, what's his face, Chase wanted to go outside and get water? How many of you thought he was going to go catch rainwater off the roof? If I went out there and I caught rainwater, let's say like this much rainwater, and then I left that jar on a table with some sunlight, what would happen in that water over the next couple of days?
Get algae.
Both of the things that you said are true. It would sprout some stuff, some algae maybe, it would turn green for a minute, and then it would evaporate, and then what would happen to that algae? It would dry out. That's actually what happened to this bottle. I left it out in the rain once, and then I just keep it around for this example. This used to be my basmati rice. But I put some cut flowers out on the table once when my mom came over for dinner, and then I forgot to clean it up, or I can't remember what happened to it. It got moved aside or something. Somebody spilled something. It just went. Anyway, you can see where the algae line was. It like sprouted a bunch of algae, and the water gradually evaporated, and you can see where a bunch of algae stuff dried out on the inside. I thought, oh, I should keep this for my class when I'm talking about it. Now imagine each of those little microscopic pores in the lava rock catches a little bit of rainwater, gets a little algae bloom, water evaporates, and some funk is left behind. What's going to happen the next time it rains?
That to have more nutrients to grow.
Because this is fertilizer for the next round of algae bloom. You understand what I mean by that? Then when it evaporates, what's going to get left behind?
More dead algae or more algae.
Yeah, that's right. Like, if you look at like an old abandoned car, like all the little pockets just start turning into dirt. Like if you have a jacuzzi that's been left open for 2-3 years, the pond scum is like thick. Imagine at the microscopic layer, if you do this over and over and over and over for like 1,000 years, every time the water evaporates, there's a little bit more organic material left. Think about what this means. You're taking gases from the atmosphere and turning them into organic energy storage. This is primary succession, where slowly microbes decompose, and you repeat this over and over and over and over. It might take 1,000 years or 10,000 years, but you eventually accumulate enough organic material, enough organic material to turn sand into soil. And now you're ready for life to start. Now you can plant stuff there. Please look up. If you've lost soil, you have to wait a really long time for soil to recover. Most disruptions, minor disruptions like a flood or a fire or lightning strike, usually they will leave the soil, so they'll start to recover right away. Does anybody here live near one of the other older fires, like the Jesucita fire, the Tea fire? You do. What are some other fires that we've had? Zacca fire, maybe. There's a couple in Goleta. One of the Jesucita and the Tea. Anybody remember when those were? 6, 7, 8?
Yeah, the tea was like 8 years ago.
8 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Does it look pretty good back there right now? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's like flowers and trees and hummingbirds and squirrels and deer and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't have to wait 10,000 years because leaving the soil behind without a major flood that takes away all the dirt, stuff's ready to start growing right away. I'll bet you right now some spots on the Thomas Fire have already sprouted. Who said they were near the Thomas Fire? Do you already have some vegetation back there in the burn scar?
I hike the fire trails, there's already breed, I guess, somewhat.
Like super far back.
Far back there, but yeah. Here's the reason why. Please look up. If the soil is left, there's usually some seeds ready to go. Secondary succession is when the plants move in, like the habitat's improved enough that plants can grow. If you didn't have soil, or if you still have the soil, they're ready to grow the next day. And this is where things get really confusing, so I want everybody to double check your notes, please. If you haven't written this down, I need to warn you that this is like a major confusion problem. There's primary, secondary, and tertiary succession, like 1, 2, and 3. But then, please look up. I'm sorry for the confusion. I'm trying to help. This is like every kid every year. Primary, secondary, and tertiary. But there's also early, middle, and late of secondary, because those plants are not all the same. Some are really tough. They can grow anywhere. Some are really picky. They need shade. They need deep soil. They need something to climb on. They need a specific nutrient from another thing decomposing. So please look up. We say early secondary succession is the really tough, fast-growing, hardy, not picky stuff. These are what we call generalists. It's like weeds. like the kind of stuff that'll grow like in a crack in your driveway, that's early secondary succession. Weeds. Middle secondary succession, they're like a little bit pickier. They might need shade, or they might need shelter from the wind, or they might need the decomposing termite poo, or I don't know what they need. But they depend on something else. So they can only move in after something's happened. That's why they're called middle, like they're later on. They're waiting for something else to happen. And finally, in late secondary succession, those are the really slow growing, the really picky stuff. So who said T-fire? Like back there, I'll bet you European ryegrass, crabgrass, maybe like juncus. There's probably a couple of other natives I can't remember. Some of those sprouted right away. Like after the T-fire, within 3-4 months, if you water it, some of that stuff was growing. Then like, I'll bet you a year or two later, like the oak trees started to sprout because the acorns need to be shaded for that sprout to survive the first year. They need shade of something else. So we'd say an oak tree is like a middle secondary species. It depends on the shade provided by the grasses. And then like there'll be some really picky stuff. Like Mimulus is really picky about soil moisture. So they're probably like a later secondary species. That comes toward the end. They're really picky. So after a major disruption, you got to wait for the soil. That's called soil building, primary succession. After a minor disruption, or after you've built the soil, you get secondary, which is like the growing plant community. And please look up because this goes fast. Tertiary succession is the rest of the food web. Like all those community level interactions. Like now that there's a bear dropping enough salmon poop that the trees really start to grow. Or now that there's a sea star to regulate the diversity of bivalves, then you get the rest of the food web. So this is the rest of the details. And we say that your ecosystem is back to its climax state when everything is back to normal. Like you can't even tell there was a disruption. Some ecosystems recover really fast, some are a little bit slower, but climax is when you can't tell something broke. Okay. Yeah. We have this all written on the board, so I think we might be good. Who wants to ask me something about primary or secondary or tertiary, early, middle, late? These terms, generalist and specialist? Are we all done?
So the second succession only happens when minor disruption,
Or after the soil has recovered.
or okay.
So like if you drop a nuclear bomb, you're gonna have to wait a long, long time. Because first you gotta build the soil on top of that glass. And then once you've built the soil, the plants will start to move in and so on. But if you just light the place on fire and you just have ashes on top of dirt, some stuff's gonna start growing like the next week.
Says the ash is cool.
Yeah. Available for questioning. Yeah.
What would be an example of a middle secondary plant and then a late secondary plant?
Well, this is kind of where I'm a bad teacher. Like, I really don't know our natives very well. So I can tell you their characteristics, but I don't know that I know good examples. I'm pretty confident that coast live oak needs shade to survive a year in the wild. They also need a certain depth of soil for the taproot to keep the leaf fed while it sprouts. So I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, coast live oak counts as middle secondary because it's a little picky about soil depth and it needs something to provide shade. So it can't go first. You can't just have bare dirt and plant an oak acorn and have that grow, because it'll sprout, but it won't survive the year. It'll dry out. So it relies on the first grasses to give it the shade. Then a good example of tertiary, I think a good one is sticky monkey flower. It's like a native flower. They're like tubular and kind of yellow and tacky. And I'm pretty sure that they need really high soil moisture and like kind of particular soil nutrients. So they're not likely to sprout until a bunch of other stuff has happened to that soil. I think that's true. If I got the species wrong, the concepts are right for sure. What else? I'm all yours. We got like 10 minutes. Yeah.
For like number 3, biological production is different than net production, right? Or that is like
I think biological production. I think it's the same as net production. Yeah.
So what was the answer for the warm-up?
And ask me after class. I'll check my notes. Because I got to make sure, I don't want to mislead you, but my gut feeling is yes. I got to check my notes for sure. Well, I'm pretty sure the answer to the warm-up is I haven't gained weight when I eat 2,000 calories. I'm still going to be worth the same number of calories because I'm spending most of what I'm taking in right now. Anybody else?
So when you work out, you use energy. What do you use energy most out of? Like breathing heavy, or you sweat, or like what?
Well, you breathe a lot because you're taking a lot of oxygen into your cells so that you can split carbon bonds and get rid of that carbon with oxygen attached. So, A, you use a little bit of energy to run your diaphragm, but B, you need to breathe faster to take in a bunch of oxygen to break a bunch of carbon bonds and dump all that loose carbon to free up that energy for all your other muscle activity. That's why if you're not breathing hard, you're not really using energy, you know, like you've probably heard it's not a workout if you're not breathing hard. What else? Shay, will you stop streaming? It's the, yeah.